All right, welcome. We are going to go through some of the procedures from working in Lightroom and going into Photoshop and some of my expectations for project 4. So this is an image I did in Photoshop. I'm sorry, in Lightroom. And got it in Lightroom, converted to DNGs, got a couple of them in here. Let's pick this one, okay? And I haven't done any editing to it yet, and I'm in Lightroom, so you can see. I'll always tell you where I am. Now, the best thing is to get all the basic editing done now, so we can try to balance our white balance, okay? Work with that. Wow, that's a little yellow. I can always make that a little cooler. I want to set my black points and my white points, right? It's easier to do these things in Lightroom and it's much more efficient. So that's one of the reasons that we're going to do them. I'm going to take my midtones down a little bit. So you can see I'm just kind of pushing and pulling the histogram a little bit. Highlights, I can bring those down a little bit, bringing some reflection off the metal. And then with the shadows, I can open up the shadows or I can close down the shadows. So I'm going to kind of close them down a little bit, and I think that looks pretty good. I like to give things a little bit of clarity, maybe just a 10, 5 to 10. And then I've got that part of basic editing. The other thing we're going to do in Lightroom, we're going to scroll all the way down to lens correction and make sure we do our lens corrections. I mean, look at the difference, right? It's kind of amazing. We can check this and then we can go into transform and see if we have any other options. At this point, I'm thinking auto looks pretty good, and I'm looking at this line going through here. This line, the blue line, however, is crooked, so let me just see. But now this part's coming out a little bit. Looks like it's coming forward, so let's leave it at auto. That looks pretty good. And that's about all I'm going to do in Lightroom, right? Just the basics. If you have a lot of noise, you can go into noise reduction, zoom into 100. In this case, I was at ISO 200, so there's not a lot of noise. But if there was, I could use my luminance noise if it was black and white noise, or my color slider if it was RGB noise. In this case, it's looking pretty good. This may have a little bit of magenta in it now that I zoom up and in. So I'm going to grab this. There we go. That kind of cleans that up a little bit, because we don't want to be spending our time in Photoshop working on color balance and things like that. We want to get all of the basic stuff done. And now we're ready to go into Photoshop. Simply right-click on the image, and you will go to Edit, Edit in Adobe Photoshop CC 2017. Now, if you get a little warning, it just means that we need a little bit of an upgrade and we can open anyway. So we're good to go. Now it's taking that into Photoshop using all of our Lightroom adjustments. Photoshop's kind of a mess right now, so I'm fixing my interface by going to Window, Workspace, Reset Amy. And in Photoshop, very briefly, this is your workspace, right? These are your tools. Up here at the top are your selection tools. Every tool that has a little triangle, will say, hey, I have roommates, right? When you hold it down. If you don't know what a tool does and you hover over, it will tell you. It will give you tool tips, right? So that's one thing you need to know. The other is the option bar. So if I select the brush, the option bar will change to things that are specific to the brush. Same for crop tool, same for marquee, right? And your default, which is the move tool. And your layers panel. This is where we are going to do all of our work. And we're going to get our adjustments from our adjustments panel. we're going to be using curves, which is in this top row. The second row has color and black and white changes, and the third row are a little more custom stuff. So we're going to be working with the tonality with curves, and then the black and white with the black and white adjustment layer. And we're going to be building this file using layers. That's why we need to have our layers panel out, our adjustment panel, and then our history panel, right? Because we want to be able to go back in time if we go too far. And also your properties panel, because when you select an adjustment panel, you will need to make that changes in the property panel. Okay, so that is a little bit about the panels you will need. So if you open up Photoshop and they're not in there, go to Window, and then you can pull up any of the panels. But the four that I think are the most necessary are your layers, your adjustments, your properties, and your history. And you can put them over here in the dock if you choose. I'm going to close this tab group. Or if you've got a nice big screen, you can put them, over here. Since we're going to be zooming in and dealing a lot with these, I'm going to leave it out. Also, you've got your little eyeball, which will turn your layers on and off. So in the next video, we will go through what a layer is and how to make one.